You may be aware by now, but Xbox is still hosting their Xbox Countdown sale from now until the start of 2026, and there are over 2,000 games you can grab at some ridiculous price points. I've already covered 40 essential games in my previous video here on the channel, however today I just wanted to cover 15 incredible games you can grab for $5 or even less. I reckon you might see some surprises here, so do make sure you stay tuned for those games. Remember, I also do give away a free game every single week on these sales videos. All you have to do is just comment below and you're automatically entered. I will be announcing the winner of this video on the 27th of December, so do make sure to subscribe or stay tuned so you don't miss out. Let's get our bargain hunter hats on and let's just dive right into it. First up, we have an indie that I've recommended here on the channel quite a few times now, but it's because it's a cozier puzzle game at a ridiculously low price point. The Last Campfire isn't interested in challenge or spectacle like other puzzle games out there, and instead it all centers around its atmosphere and its feeling. You basically go out and explore quiet spaces, solve these gentle puzzles, and then help lost characters move on, and somehow that simplicity hits way harder than I ever expected. The narration is also pretty good, and I honestly really love the short story that it tells, and it can get a little emotional towards the end. It really is a good indie that has stuck with me for so many years, and to be honest, I still can't believe it's made by Hello Games, the same devs behind No Man's Sky. At £1.20, this is the kind of experience that you play once, but it will stick with you long into the future. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was an absolute breath of fresh air within the Star Wars space, and it really did show that we can get a really in-depth and good narrative adventure game without needing to lump in a multiplayer element. It doesn't try to overwhelm you with all the fan service, and instead it just tells a solid story within the Star Wars universe and lets the gameplay do the talking. You will take control of Cal Kestis as he rebuilds his connection to the Force, and of course along the way there will be many trials and tribulations. The combat is actually Souls-like based, which I really wasn't expecting, so it can get hard at time to time. However, they have enabled a new easy mode if you do want a more traditional adventure experience like something like Tomb Raider. At just under £5, this is one of the easiest Star Wars recommendations out there, and Respawn really did a fantastic job with this one. Risk of Rain 2 was a game that I never really had high expectations for, especially when jumping into it about a couple years ago now, but when I did play it, I was really hooked, and I now understand why this one gets highly praised within the roguelike genre. This one basically drops you and up to 3 friends in a randomly generated arena where you must fight off hordes of aliens, and once you've defeated a certain amount of them, you can then open a portal and that progresses you on to the next area, etc, etc. It is a fairly simple premise, as you're probably aware by now, but the game gets incredibly complex with the amount of builds you can make, the tons of items that you can get given, and the lovely procedurally generated lands that you can explore. I will say the enemies get pretty outrageous as well, so it's always fun seeing what ones you'll be coming across. It's one indie I will always heavily recommend here on the channel, and I know it still gets some decent DLC with one actually arriving next year, so there's so many avenues that this game really unlocks. I have mentioned a few LEGO games here on the channel before, but one I've actually never highlighted, and I'm quite surprised, is LEGO Builder's Journey, and I'm really surprised it's such a great but short experience. As mentioned, it is a short LEGO puzzle game, but somehow it ended up with a really great and somewhat emotional journey. You're essentially dropped into these small LEGO dioramas and then asked to figure things out on your own way and make your way home. There are no timers, no pressure, it's just experimenting until it clicks. What I really like is how tactile this one feels, like actually sitting on the floor and building something as a kid, or probably adult if you're like me. For just £3.34, this is such an easy recommendation if you're looking for a sort of calm and clever game that really respects your time and also your brain power, and honestly you can easily knock this one out within a day or two and also get the full 1000 gamer score. With State of Decay 3 rumoured to be arriving sometime within the next year, it might be worth putting State of Decay 2 on your radar or in your basket for this sale. This game isn't about saving the world like other zombie games out there, and instead is about surviving long enough and ensuring the survivors under your own leadership don't succumb to the zombie hordes. As you probably guessed by that sentence, you will be managing a group, and when someone dies, they are gone for good. That's what makes this game so intense, as you're constantly juggling your own supplies, exploration, and also defending your community against the undead. The Juggernaut Edition fixes a lot of the earlier problems and adds all of the DLC, so it's the best version for you to jump into, hence why I highlighted it today for that low price of just £5. If you care about atmosphere and want to dive into one of the best horror FPS franchises in all of gaming, then this bundle is just ridiculous value. I did actually mention this bundle in my 40 essential games video a few days back now, but I will mention them again, as you can not only get Metro 2033, but also Last Light and Exodus, and they're fantastic games. I love Metro, even though it does cause me to have a very raised heart rate at all times, but that's because it does such a good job of restraining you without feeling overbearing. Stuff like ammo is very scarce, silent balance truly matters, the audio design is utterly fantastic, and the world feels genuinely hostile. It's not a game about power fantasies like Call of Duty, instead it's really grounded, and the little details like cleaning your gas mask or just hearing distant voices makes everything feel so real. This is a trilogy you will play slowly and preferably with headphones if you can stomach it, and that's why it's such a great FPS franchise that many love to this day. I genuinely think that this next one is one of the most underrated casual shooters that's ever been made. Garden Warfare 2 is just pure fun with no stress, no try-hard energy, and just colourful chaos. In this one you can jump in for 10 minutes, play a few matches, and leave smiling, and it's one that I've put countless hours into until this day. I don't think any of us really expected EA to put the classic 2D game into a third-person shooter setting, but hey, somehow it really worked, and they did improve a lot on this second entry as well. I will say it is primarily an online game, so fighting others in PvP really is the name of it, but there is somewhat of a shorter sort of single player aspect if you really want to dive into it, but really that isn't the overall experience. For just under £2 though, this is a ridiculous amount of value. Even if you don't like shooters, this one feels approachable and very welcoming, but I will say the online population is certainly on the lower end these days, so just do be warned before jumping into this one. Soulstice is a really cool AA title that I know many of you watching today have probably never even heard of. To give you some form of idea though, you basically control two sisters at once, and it's your job to protect the holy kingdom of Cadas as it has been compromised when powerful feral creatures known as wraiths invade from the other side of the veil. This one is perfect to grab in a sale, and I think it's worth every single penny with the amount of content you really get within it. Yes, the story is actually interesting, the combat is very tight, though it does take some getting used to, and the characters are some of the best and well written here. I've seen many complaints over the years though regarding the environments, saying they're all sort of samey, and whilst they aren't wrong in those reviews, it does remind me a lot of the old DMC games. If it does sound like your style, then definitely check this one out as soon as possible. If you are looking for a staggeringly long RPG with a ton of content, then you can get Dragon Age Inquisition with all of the DLC for £3.50, and honestly that is absurd considering how much game is really here. What carries it for me personally though was the companions and the choices, not because you're just wandering the world, and instead you're running an Inquisition and dealing with politics, faith, and power on a massive scale. Yes, some areas of this game are definitely bigger than they ever need to be, but the story movements, the character arcs, and the big decisions more than make up for it entirely. If you enjoy RPGs where your choices truly matter and characters actually react how you play, then this one's an easy recommendation at this price point. It's the last real good game that we've ever seen from BioWare, so it's totally worth experiencing if you want to see them at their very best. I really enjoyed the modern Tomb Raider trilogy, and I think Square Enix did a fairly decent job of reviving this franchise. Rise of the Tomb Raider though is my favourite one of the three, and everything from the exploration to the combat to the puzzle design felt utterly fantastic. Lara does feel capable without feeling invincible, and that balance between stealth, action, and tomb solving is spot on. It's a good middle ground, especially since the first game was more focused on Lara becoming a survivor into an adventurer but without any experience. It's way more in line with the Tomb Raider games we know and love, and I think that's why it really sticks out for me. What I especially like though is that the optional tombs here aren't filler either. They're some of the best designed sections in the entire game, and they're totally worth exploring. For just under £4, it's one of the most polished cinematic adventures you can play on Xbox to this day, and I might just have to dive into it again personally before the new Tomb Raider games arrive in 2026 and beyond. I also wanted to highlight an indie that most of you have probably never heard of either, but it has incredibly positive reviews across both our Xbox consoles and other platforms. If you love visually striking indie games, Planet Alpha will be an absolute must-play for you. This is a side-scrolling platformer featuring an alien world filled with so many lush landscapes, breathtaking lighting effects, and mysterious creatures. You will be playing as a stranded explorer who must traverse dangerous environments, solve puzzles, and then manipulate time just to survive. One of the most unique aspects of Planet Alpha though is the day and night cycle, which players can control to solve environmental puzzles and evade dangers. The platforming mechanics are very fluid, and the world continuously revolves around you. Planet Alpha really is a hidden gem on the Xbox store, and it deserves way more attention than it really gets. I will never stop gushing about Sunset Overdrive because nothing else quite feels like it, and I just wish we'd get a bloody new game. This game really is all about its movement, and once you stop standing still and you're grinding rails, jumping on cars, and bouncing pretty much off anything possible, everything really clicks. Essentially, an energy drink has turned people into monsters, and it's your job to blast them with some pretty ridiculous weapons, and it's just pure fun from start to finish. The humour doesn't take itself seriously at all, and although it's certainly not to everyone's taste, it's still a pretty fun romp with some fantastic comic comic book inspired visual flair. For £3, this is an absolute steal and one of the most personality driven action games that Xbox has to this day. It is also still an Xbox exclusive at the time of this recording, so it's definitely worth diving into as it's one of the last we'll have on Xbox to this day. I genuinely believe that Titanfall 2 has one of the best FPS campaigns that's ever been made, and that alone makes this totally worth buying. It is not a campaign that wastes your time, as every level introduces a brand new idea, it even explores it fully, then moves on before it gets stale, and it gets surprisingly deep. Never did I really expect to get so attached to a metal robot like I did with BT, and that's why it stands out for many who really played this one. As you kind of expect with Titanfall though, the movement feels incredible once you get into the rhythm, and the combat becomes this sort of smooth, fast flow instead of stop-start gunfights. Multiplayer is also pretty great, and it still has a very dedicated community even in 2025. Even if you only want to play the campaign and you don't even want to touch the online aspects, £4 is an absolute no-brainer for one of the best FPS campaigns that's ever been made. This next game is absolutely wild, and although it wasn't rated that highly and really wasn't by the community either, I did actually find it a bloody fun time and it's worth diving into. 1 minute you might be slicing through enemies with a katana, and the next you're watching an anime cutscene about ramen, and then you're playing a claw machine minigame. It's bloody weird. Wanted Dead doesn't try to explain himself, and honestly I think that's really kind of part of the charm here. The combat is a sort of mashup of third-person shooting and melee action, with executions that feel straight out of the sort of 360 2006 era. It's unpolished, absolutely, but that jank comes with a sort of weird personality, like it knows the exact game it wants to be and doesn't care if it's not for everyone. At £5, thanks to a massive 80% off, is a chaotic ride that's worth taking, and I think a lot of people might actually be surprised by this one. If you're wanting a game that quietly ruins your free time because of how addictive it can get and you're not playing something like Vampire Survivors or even Clover Pit, then let me introduce you to Slay the Spire. It may look simple on paper, but it's dangerously addictive once you understand how deep this one goes. Every run is about making smart decisions, and that means deciding what cards to take with you and when to play it safe and when to gamble. As you can see, this is a card battle game, so I know it certainly won't be for everyone, but before playing this indie, I was never actually a fan of these games either. It's that insanely good, and it just shows you that card games can actually be pretty fun experiences. For £5, this is a ridiculous value considering how many hours you can sink into it, and if you enjoy the likes of strategy, planning, and just that one more run sort of feeling, this is an essential grab for your Xbox library. What games have you picked up on sale in this Xbox Countdown sale? You'll have to let me know down below, and if there's any deals that I should be made aware of. Do also like this video if you did enjoy, and say if we get over 600 likes, I'll give a couple of games away in the next week's sales video. Do make sure to subscribe as well for more Xbox content on a daily basis, and I want to give a massive shout out to our channel members for your continued support, and long may that continue into 2026. Whilst here though, and if you want to check out some more awesome Xbox content here on the channel, why don't you check out the video on screen now. I actually covered 15 incredibly interesting and absolutely addictive games that are available on Xbox Game Pass, and they're real hidden gems that you just need to check out.